Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 20th of March 2023. These are the stories that we will be discussing in detail in the course of the show. We'll begin with the fact concerning Pakistan's nuclear asset safety. This has also been reiterated and reconfirmed by one of the generals of the US Centcom. Commander of US Central Command, General Michael A. Kurilla, during a testimony before the Senate Arms Services Committee in the US, says he is confident in Pakistan's nuclear security procedures. This was also confirmed some time back when the Director General of the IAEA had visited Pakistan. Why then are there certain rumors circulating in different lobbies? And of course, we all know who's behind this. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Khalistan movement and the referendum in Australia. Now, tensions between India and Australia have kind of risen when the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has told Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi that his government cannot stop a legal right to expression of pro-Khalistan Sikhs in Australia after the Modi government demanded a ban to this Khalistan referendum. This referendum has been going on for quite some time in different countries across the world. Also, the Indian flag in the United Kingdom's Indian High Commission was lowered, and the flag of the Khalistan movement put on its place, and this also has angered the Indians. This is going to be our second segment. Our third story concerns Shehbaz Sharif, our Prime Minister Saab, who has tweeted concerning the rather disgusting attitude of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's spear campaign against the Chief of the Army Staff, General Asim Munir, at the behest of the party leader Imran Niazi, who he says is deserving of the strongest condemnation. He says that the former Prime Minister is going to unprecedented lows in his desperation for power and going to the extent of damaging the country. This is going to be our third story. Our last story concerns the World Oral Health Day. It's a very important day. We all need our mouths to be clean, our teeth to be clean, and to prevent all the infections for us to get all of the infections that we can get if we don't get our mouths and our teeth clean. The importance of that is being highlighted today in the World Oral Health Day. Let's begin with our first segment that concerns Pakistan's nuclear assets, its safety, and that Pakistan has excellent safety protocols, as has been said by the Centcom US General. More in the following report.
Pakistan is a responsible nuclear state, and its nuclear program represents the unwavering consensus of nation to protect motherland from external threats. Expressing confidence in Pakistan's nuclear program and its stability, US Centcom Commander General Michael Kurilla apprised that Pakistan's nuclear system is safe and America is satisfied with it.
They have I deal with the military relationship there. I have a great relationship with the Chief of the Army Staff, General Munir. I think the concerns right now in Pakistan are their budget, their financial situation, the current political situation, and the counterterrorism situation as they see the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistani, the TTP, the attacks are significantly increasing with the end of a ceasefire there.
Are you confident of their nuclear security procedures?
I am confident of their nuclear security procedures.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has asserted that the misleading speculations about Pakistan's nuclear and missile program are unfortunate, as stringent, foolproof and multi-layered security safeguards duly testified by International Atomic Energy Agency are in place. Recent Director General of IAEA, Rafael Grossi, visited Pakistan to check the sites and locations employing nuclear technology and reflected that the country has a world-class nuclear safety record. IAEA chief emphasized that Pakistan's technical capacity and nuclear safety record are the reasons for his optimism about the prospects for the expansion of nuclear energy. Pakistan's nuclear weapons not only ensure enduring deterrence against adversaries, but also symbolize Pakistan's technological prowess both with Muslim world and in large international community. Amid rising nuclear threats, the widening gulf between the world's haves and have-nots, and the epic geopolitical divisions, such baseless propaganda against Pakistan's nuclear program undermine global solidarity and trust.
Now, to discuss this very important issue, we've been joined by two guests online. Our first guest is Ali Mustafa. He's a nuclear security expert. Thank you very much, Ali, to have joined us. Our second guest is Dr. Adil Sultan. He's the Dean and the Head of Department of Strategic Studies at the Air University. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us as well. Let's begin with our first guest, Ali Mustafa. Ali, let's talk a little bit about this statement by the US Centcom General. How important is this reaffirmation of Pakistan's nuclear security in the current geopolitical situation that is engulfing the region?
The politicians in the United States of America do have certain concerns with regards to Pakistan, and not just Pakistan's nuclear safety and security, but global nuclear safety and security, since this affects international peace and security as well. However, I think that this statement should not be given as much weightage as we do in Pakistan. I think rather than relying upon the statements coming on out from Washington, should be more confident in our own capabilities. Pakistan has a robust nuclear command and control system, and whilst there are challenges, rightly so, inside Pakistan that may affect the nuclear security of Pakistan's assets, I think the structures in Pakistan, the structures of NCA specifically, the people at the helm of affairs, they're pretty sure about how to deal with such challenges. So I think Pakistan needs to be more confident within itself rather than relying upon external, especially the Western perspective on Pakistan's nuclear safety and security.
But you know, this said, Ali, the fact remains that Western reaffirmation of Pakistan's nuclear security and parameters is very important for a global audience, for a global perspective. We all know how secure our nuclear assets are, but the fact remains that when somebody who's as important as the chief of the US Centcom reaffirms the fact that Pakistan's nuclear assets are safe, it adds to a lot of credence to what Pakistan has been saying all along. Ali, you talk about the challenges that confront Pakistan's nuclear security. What challenges, in your point of view, are those?
Thank you so much for this follow-up. I think, Omar, yes, whilst these statements do reaffirm and give credence to Pakistan's nuclear security, however, whenever in the West, due to their own political reasons, they give aspersions, negative aspersions on Pakistan's nuclear safety and security, then it becomes a matter of concern as well. So that's why I think rather than always relying upon their viewpoint, Pakistan should be more vocal in its own capacity and capability. I think anytime in Pakistan or in any country, if there are economic challenges, if there are non-state actors, especially violent non-state actors, they will pose a challenge to the nuclear safety and security of any country. However, as part of good, robust nuclear security culture, the people at the helm of affairs need to be ready and be aware that anything can happen at any given point in time. And I'm pretty sure that people at the National Command Authority, the Special Strategic Force regarding nuclear security, they are well aware of the challenges that exist right now. And as far as having a good nuclear security culture concerns, I think Pakistan has time again showed that its nuclear assets are safe, and it pays a premium regardless of whichever government is at the power, that this issue is non-negotiable. This is such an issue that without, even with all partisan politics aside, all governments, all political parties hold the security of Pakistan's nuclear assets as sacrosanct.
All right. Dr. Adil Sultan, let's come to you. The Director General of the IAEA visited in February Pakistan. He inspected Pakistan's nuclear safety protocols and he was extremely satisfied. He said Pakistan had a quote-unquote world-class and impeccable nuclear safety record. Is there any room to question Pakistan's security apparatus as far as its nuclear assets are concerned?
No, there is no justification to question Pakistan's nuclear safety and security credentials. And I'm happy that you raised this question of DGIAEA's visit. It is important to understand that DGIAEA, he heads an international organization, a UN organization that only deals with peaceful applications of nuclear technology. IAEA does not have the mandate to talk about nuclear weapons, and he never talked about nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, there were some reports or some misleading assertions in the social media that created or generated this unwarranted controversy about the safety and security of nuclear program of Pakistan. This was mainly due to lack of awareness amongst general public or some of the social media commentators that they linked DGIA's visit to Pakistan's nuclear program. This had nothing to do with IAEA. And we should also be very careful about this because such visits are a norm, and he came on Pakistan's own invitation, and he visited some of the facilities which are mainly about nuclear energy or peaceful applications of nuclear technology. He is never taken to any of the military facilities because that doesn't fall under his mandate, and he has no right to comment on Pakistan's nuclear weapons program. So that's very important for our own public because this was a controversy created by ourselves unnecessarily, and we brought the security issue of nuclear program into limelight because of negligence.
Dr. Saab, I'd like to also understand, on the one hand, there are vicious rumors that are deliberately created against Pakistan's nuclear safety. On the other hand, we have in our very neighborhood events that occur that show blatantly that there is an issue concerning nuclear security, whether it be the BrahMos missile. If you remember very well what happened on the 9th of March when this missile entered Pakistani airspace, and then the other events that have also shown that India's nuclear security apparatus is not as secure as it should be. Do the world or the IAEA hold India accountable when any such incident happen?
No, they don't, because India is a major strategic partner, and on to the right side of the United States, it does so many things and gets away. Nobody raises any question. So this is also important to understand that whenever nuclear security issue is raised, there is politics behind this, and whenever they want to extract certain concessions from Pakistan, they themselves instigate such kind of controversy. You always see some of the Western sources, they leak stories or they start to build that narrative that, but there's some truth to this also, that whenever there is internal security issue or there is political instability, there are some concerns by the international community. So you cannot totally discard those. But what we have seen for the past few decades, whenever they want to coerce Pakistan or extract certain political concessions, they themselves create these controversies, and then they continue to assert that they are confident about Pakistan's nuclear weapons security and so on. But these stories mainly emanate from the influential Western think tank. So you can see the politics. So whenever there is a controversy, there is politics behind that. Otherwise, we should not be worried about these statements, and we should not be very happy about the certification by the outside actors. We are very much confident because this is our capability, this is a national capability, and we are, Alhamdulillah, we are very well aware of the dangers also, and the institutions that are looking after, they are looking after the nuclear security aspect very well in a very professional manner. So we should not be talking too much about nuclear security just because somebody has given a statement within the country or outside the country. That is something that we need to understand, that the minimum that we talk about these issues, yes, these assets have some specific purpose, the military purpose. They would be available when there is a need for that. Unnecessarily giving statements domestically also, and or looking toward the external actors giving some kind of a certification, I don't think so. That's a good approach that we should be looking at.
All right. Ali Mustafa, when it comes to smear campaigns or malicious campaigns against Pakistan's nuclear security apparatus or assets, who do you feel is behind it? Is it because of political reasoning? Is it because of political gains of certain political elements inside of Pakistan? Or does it have more to do with external pressures in the region or across the world?
I would second Dr. Adil's point about these points on aspersions on Pakistan's nuclear safety and security coming from the Western countries for political reasons. Whilst there are genuine concerns regarding how the security of Pakistan as a whole has been like in the last 20 years, which does give pause to international actors to really look deeply into what is affecting Pakistan's security and how that may affect Pakistan's nuclear safety and security. Yet at the same time, most of the Western countries and also our neighbor India has been quite active in perpetuating such ideas. These ideas do come from one lack of understanding about how Pakistan is as a state. It also comes from, as Dr. Adil pointed out, due to certain political reasons, but also it comes from many times this Western attitude towards most of the developing countries. There is a sense in the Western world that perhaps they are more secure and they are more professional in handling the safety and security of their nuclear arsenal. So I think it's a multitude of factors which affects why Western countries come up with such statements. As far as India is concerned, they have certain malicious purpose against our nuclear program, and this brings them brownie points, and they take Pakistan as a punching bag uh, to look into such issues and portray an image that Pakistan's nuclear safety and security is not that good. You may know about India's web of um, news networks which were perpetuating news which was fake. And this is just a series of such actions that have been taken by Delhi time and again.
All right, Ali, also I'd like to understand Pakistan's perspective on the safety of its nuclear arsenal. It has been reiterated very recently by Ishaq Dar Sahab, our Minister for Finance, also that there's going to be no compromise as far as Pakistan's nuclear and missile programs are concerned. Is the point has this point been made clear to the international community, to other players or stakeholders in the region and in Pakistan?
I think most definitely, though such statements are sent through official channels, which I'm not privy to. However, based upon historical antecedents, I'm pretty sure that such messages would have been sent clear out loud to influential capitals. So I don't think that this is something that we need to be even discuss, internally, or look at this from the lens of from partisan political lens. I think this is something which, as Dr. Adil pointed out, we've unnecessarily created a hype on such an issue. This is something which is sacrosanct no matter which political party comes in. I think there's a broad consensus inside Pakistan by all major stakeholders that this is something which is uncompromising, and this is something we will never ever allow anyone to dictate us on.
All right, Dr. Adil, Sultan, let's come to you. We all remember 1998, May 28, when Pakistan became a nuclear power. Is the world ready to accept Pakistan as one?
Again, it's a political issue. Whenever we are required to play a certain role, we have become acceptable, and whenever we are not required, we become unacceptable. So there's again politics behind that. We don't. Yes, there is. It is important that you continue to play that role and as a responsible nuclear weapon state. But whether they recognize or not recognize, it shouldn't bother us because we are a nuclear weapon state. What we have seen, they gave exemptions to our neighbor, which had similar credentials, which had not signed the NPT. We are also non-signatory. But the way they treat India is different the way they want to treat Pakistan. So the point that I was making earlier, that since 1998, we have been through this, and we know unless we start to play or dance on their tune, they won't accept Pakistan as a nuclear weapon state. But we have to be self-confident. We don't have to worry about whether they recognize or not. We are a confident nuclear weapon state. The only point that I made earlier also, the less we talk domestically, because the statement that you referred made by one of our ministers, I think IMF has no mandate to make such a demand, and it probably never asked Pakistan government also. And there was a clarification also. And so this statement created this controversy, probably amongst some, that IMF is putting pressure, demanding some concessions, or asking Pakistan not to build certain type of nuclear weapons. I don't think so. We should be discussing these things in public, because then it creates controversy amongst the public also at the international level, which is not good for our nuclear program.
All right, I have one question that is divided into two parts. The first takes you back to the month of October in 2022, where the US President Joe Biden had made certain comments regarding Pakistan as being one of the most dangerous countries in the world. That was refuted days later afterwards, when US expressed confidence in Pakistan to keep its nuclear arms secure. In your point of view, why is there a to and fro as far as the US attitude towards Pakistan's nuclear arsenal and nuclear safety is concerned? My second part of the program is whether the US at any moment of time in the future will have, or will have the idea, or will look into a civilian nuclear deal with Pakistan as it has with India.
On the first part, I had a different take, although many senior people, they took that statement by Joe Biden as something questioning Pakistan's nuclear program or the security of nuclear weapons. I think if you listen to that statement, he was talking about domestic instability. So nobody can deny that, yes, there's political instability inside the country. But he was not referring actually to the security of nuclear weapons. The initial reaction that came from within Pakistan, that gave life to a controversy, which was not needed. That is why I continue to say that we need to take this criticism as it is, but if there is a need to give an answer, yes, official channels should provide that answer. Foreign Office is there are official channels, military to military. We should not be giving statements in the public, refuting or something, or saying something which had actually a different meaning, because that was also a controversy self-created, and that became something controversial in Pakistan. On the second part about the civil nuclear cooperation, again, if we start to play on the US whims, or what the United States wants India to play a role against China in this region, yes, we would be offered similar kind of concessions, but we cannot, because we live in this region and China is a very close strategic partner to Pakistan. So we cannot play any role which is against Chinese interests also. So the India-US nuclear deal was all about this, that they wanted to build India's military potential, the nuclear potential, and build India's credentials against China. So if tomorrow we decide, which I'm sure nobody in Pakistan would agree, that similar kind of concessions would be afforded to Pakistan. So it's all politics. If your interests are aligned, international.
Basically, all of such statements or decisions that are taken are basically politically motivated. Thank you so very much, Dr. Adil Sultan, Dean, Head of Department of Strategic Studies, Air University, to have joined us. Last question to you, Ali Mustafa. In your point of view, what are the key pillars of Pakistan's nuclear security regime?
Pakistan has not just the Command and Control Authority under the National Command Authority (NCA), but it also has a very large, very capable strategic force, which is capable of protecting our strategic assets. Pakistan has effective export control regime, which doesn't allow for any material to be diverted from Pakistan to any other country. Pakistan has a very strict, I think one of the largest military forces specifically dedicated towards nuclear security. At the end of the day, I think the challenges are there for Pakistan. However, people at the helm, people at the Command and Control Authority are well aware of the challenges with regards to nuclear safety and security, and I'm pretty confident that regardless of whatever any major actor or any person from the West says anything about that, I think Pakistan will play an effective role towards securing its nuclear assets.
Thank you so very much, Ali Mustafa, nuclear security expert, who have joined us to talk about Pakistan's nuclear assets and their safety and security. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns Khalistan, or the creation of Khalistan. This movement has taken credence since the last couple of years, and we see referendums happening in different parts of the world, latest being Australia. And of course, there is a lot of appeasement between the Indian and the Australian governments because of the very fact that Australia let this Khalistan referendum go forward. Will Khalistan be created in the next couple of years or months? More in the following report.
India under BJP government is persistently sliding towards Hindutva-inspired fundamentalist theocracy where minorities are treated as second-class citizens. Narendra Modi's premiership has been dogged by persistent allegations about the attitude of his government towards minorities and institutionalized illusion of minority rights. As Sikhs have come under attack from hardline Hindutva supporters in India, Khalistan movement is in momentum. Voting for second round of Khalistan referendum is taking place in Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre, Australia, and more than 11,000 Sikhs took part in this phase. Khalistan referendum voting in Brisbane was hit by a massive cyber attack within 30 minutes after the polling commenced. Organisers Seek for Justice said the attack was well planned and well coordinated. They said that the Indian government agencies were behind the cyber attack. Over 50,000 Sikhs turned up to vote for Khalistan referendum in Melbourne for the first phase of a referendum at the end of January this year. Third phase and last leg of the Australian phase is set to take place in Sydney in June this year. While Modi regime is pursuing violence to crush the Khalistan referendum, SFJ is using voting to resolve the decades-old conflict between the Sikhs and the Union of India.
We've been joined by Ramesh Singh Arora, Ambassador at Large, Kartarpur Corridor, Government of Pakistan. Ramesh ji, thank you very much to have joined us. Ramesh ji, let's talk about this referendum and the Khalistan movement that has taken credence over the last few years. We've seen what happened in Australia. We've also seen what has happened in the United Kingdom, where the Indian flag was replaced by that of Khalistan. How important is this movement for the Sikhs of India? And when are we going to see the creation of Khalistan? Do you feel India is going to try its level best to stop any or such attempt from happening?
Thank you very much. This movement, particularly this referendum, started way back before the Govt, and it was stopped just because of the Govt. So, going through from the UK, Europe, and now it's happening in Australia, and whatever has done in Australia by those people who didn't want that the Sikhs should talk about for their own homeland, it's in front of the world. Certainly what has happened, it's a history, and everyone knows about the history that no one can forget about 1984, the Operation Blue Star, and the Akal Takht was destroyed by the Indian forces. And now Sikhs, they demand their homeland. And the Supreme Court of Pakistan, of India, they have said that the Sikh community has the right to ask about the Khalistan, and if whosoever is talking about the Khalistan, you cannot say that he or she is a traitor, and you cannot put some and put them behind the bar. Now the Sikh community, particularly living in India, not only the Sikh, the minority living in India, they have their reservations, particularly about the present government, and there is a human rights violation in India. Either it's Sikhs, Christians, Dalits, or the Kashmiris. They all are suffering a lot because of the present government, and the present government is more focused rather to look into the matter, look into the fundamental rights of the minorities. They're more concerned about the Hinduata. And what is this? This is what they're promoting. And rather to become a secular state, they're becoming more Hinduata state, which means that the other people, the people who are from the other faith, either they are Christians, they are Sikhs, they are Dalits, they are Muslims, they are not safe and protected. And now Sikhs demand, and once this referendum is done, so certainly there would be a strong voice from the Sikh community that the struggle they started way back 3 decades before. Now the Sikh community wants their own homeland, and certainly once this process is completed, they will go to the United Nations that the Sikh community wants its own country, its own homeland. So certainly, there would be more power from the Sikh side. So that's why I consider that this referendum is much more important for them.
All right. Mr. Arora, I'd also like to understand with these referendums happening in different parts of the world and the success of these referendums because of the turnout that has been of the Sikh community across these different cities of the world, and the latest being in Australia, and now there's going to be another phase that is happening in June this year in Sydney. Do you feel the Indian government or Indian involvement to stop such referendums will have some kind of an effect on the Khalistan movement or these referendums?
Like you can see how they tried to stop this process not only in Australia, they tried to stop this process in the UK, they tried to stop this process in the Europe. They tried to do it through the diplomatic process. Once they were unable to do it because what has happened in Canada? The Canadian Prime Minister did it like they asked the Canadian Prime Minister to stop this process in Canada. He said, no, we are a secular state. We talk about the democracy and everyone has the right to vote for their own rights. So they couldn't do it. Now they have those people who are the spoilers, and they have had some PR firms who are trying to destroy this whole process. So certainly next phase they will be playing their game role to destroy this process. But whatever the output, whatever the turnout is of this referendum, the result is amazing. They couldn't predict that this would be the response of the Sikh community, not only the Sikh community, the Punjabis who are living in different parts of the world. Their response is overwhelming, and so I'm pretty confident that once this process is done and this referendum is done, the result will be totally different, and there would be a news for the world that Sikh is united, particularly when they talk about their separate homeland.
Mr. Ramesh Singh Arora, when it comes to India also, it has tried to manipulate this electronic voting results one way or the other. We've heard about the attempts to sabotage voting during the Khalistan referendums. Do you feel India, we've heard the reports regarding that as well. Do you feel India will continue to sabotage the whole process of referendum one way or the other?
Yeah, I don't have any doubt, because they know the result is that everyone is voting for the referendum, and everyone wants that they must have their homeland. So as I said earlier, they would be trying to play anything, any game, just to destroy this process. Like you can see what has happened with the Sikh community in late 80s, late 70s and early 80s, they attacked on the Sikh community, and certainly they put them behind the bars. 1984, Operation Blue Star, and after that there's Sikh assassination, not Sikh assassination, there was Sikh genocide. What has happened in Delhi, and the killing of elderly people, the children, the women, and there was a lynching, and the mobs came and they destroyed their home, and there was a mob lynched the women, the old age people, and the children. So now there's a sufferer. So those who now they are living in outside and the Sikh diaspora, they are totally united and they want their homeland. So India would never allow the Sikh community to go for the rights. So they would try to sabotage this process.
Now, Mr. Arora, when it comes to sabotaging attempts by the Sikhs in India or abroad to vote for their right for a separate homeland for the Sikhs, does it come because of the way they have been treated over the decades, whether it be Operation Blue Star, whether it be other maneuvers by the Indian government lately? We also hear of so many attempts of mobile internet services suspended as the Indian police launch huge attempts to try to track one of the Indian Sikh leaders, Mr. Amritpal Singh, who is also trying to fight for the right to create Khalistan. In the whole context of all the attempts by India, whether in the form of manipulation electronically, whether in the form of trying to suspend different kinds of services, arresting over 100 people in this manhunt for Sikh leaders, will India succeed in your point of view? And should India also introspect as to what it has done that has led to the Sikh community to demand for the state of Khalistan?
Mr. Butler, just one thing is very much clear. We, the Pakistan, always stand with those people, and we become the voice of those people wherever we see that there's a we talk about the fundamental and basic human rights. Where there is a human rights violation, either it's Kashmir, either it's Burma, either it's Palestine, either it's Khalistan or India. So we will be standing with those people who are the victims. So particularly in this case, we see that the Sikh community living in India, they are the victims, and they are being victimized by the state. Not only the people of those who are like RSS, also the state. There is a state-owned terrorism, and the example is 1984 Blue Star operation. So now Mr. Amritpal, he is doing his struggle. He is giving a platform where they can have their own voice, and they can raise the voice at a larger level, that the Sikh communities all together when it comes to the separate homeland or when it comes to the basic human rights. So there's lots of pressure on the Indian government. That's why we are here, we are listening that they're going to arrest Mr. Amritpal and some other those who are the freedom fighters or those who talk about the separate homeland. So India would never allow any community, not only the Sikhs, whosoever, either they are Dalit they are the victimized, Christians they are the victimized. What has happened in the Kashmir? No one can forget about the Kashmir, and particularly when they revoked the article, and now the Indian occupied Kashmir becomes the Union territory. So likewise, they are playing the game, and they have their strategy of next 20 years, 30 years, how they are going to suppress the minorities in India. And but now world should understand that India, who claims that India is a secular state, unfortunately, the present government, the Modi government, the Modi regime, unfortunately, it's not showing this case. It's talking more about Hindutva. And there is a clear-cut message for the Sikh community, because Indian article, either it's 25 part 3, says that Sikhism is not a separate religion. Sikhism is a part of Hinduism, and they call Sikh is a Kesadari Hindu. When you don't recognize Sikhism is a separate religion, then certainly the basic fundamental human rights, they're compromised.
Mr. Arora, the fact also remains that in India, as we speak, there are so many movements for independence going on. Will India, in your point of view, be able to control these movements, given the fact that they are perpetrating their own Hindutva policy that is RSS-led?
If you want my reply or my answer on this question, answer would be no. They can't, because now the community, the people who are from the faith and the victims, they are mobilized. And once they are mobilized, maybe you can, for a time being, you can stop it, you can halt this process, but in the longer run, I don't see that they can stop it or they can destroy it. Certainly the time would come when these movements will come together and India would be in trouble. This is my, maybe someone can disagree with it, but I don't think so that India can control them at this way, that they will just destroy or stop them forever. I don't think.
Where does that leave the relationship between India and Australia, India and the United Kingdom? We've heard of the incident of the Indian flag being removed at the Indian High Commission in the United Kingdom. Of course, all efforts like these or even attempts like these come from a desperation of people for the denial of their rights. Do you feel this is going to have an effect on the relationship that India enjoys with important countries that are at the moment, because of the fundamental rights to freedom and expression, allowing the Sikh community in their respective countries to go forward with the referendum?
Normally India claim, and India, in most of the cases, India claim that we had a very big economy, and India talks about the business empires with so many countries and having a good relationship with them. Yes, all matters. But normally, when the people of your own homeland, people of your own country, they are not happy, and whenever the Prime Minister of India goes, comes out of the airport and there are slogans against the Modi or the Indian government that we are not happy with the Indian policies and we have been discriminated and my community is discriminated and Mr. Modi or Mr. Prime Minister, you are the one who are involved in the Sikh genocide where we are struggling for the justice and we are not getting justice. So certainly world would questioning you, world would be starting questioning the Indian government, okay, what is happening in India? So there would be certain, like what has happened in the case of Canada. They gave them so many threats that we are going to discontinue our diplomatic relationship with you. So they said, okay, it doesn't matter. But we are standing with those people who are the victimized and those people who are talking about the fundamental and basic human rights. So that's why the referendum process in Canada went very smooth, went very well, and there was a high turnout on the referendum. So certainly they have to be answerable, particularly about human rights, and they should be answerable. And I consider that the United Nations should raise a question to the Indian government that there are issues, there are fundamental basic human rights issues in the Kashmir, in the Nagaland, in the Punjab, and some other parts, and particularly Dalit community who is part of the Hinduism. They are also compromised. They are also talking about that we are being discriminated. So what should at least take a question, answer from the Indian government.
Mr. Arora, how important is the role of the Sikhs for Justice group to fight for the rights of the Sikh community?
Look, this Sikh for Justice is struggling for the basic human rights of the Sikh community for last so many years, and this is, I consider, this is their success that they are able to put together all the Sikh community on one platform and one agenda, and that agenda is referendum, Khalistan referendum. So once they have succeeded and they come up with a handsome number, good number, and then they would be able to go to the United Nations, I consider that this is a success. So what is their next step? What is their way forward? So certainly this is Sikh for Justice would be in a better position to tell. But so far it's their great achievement that they are going country to country and getting very good response from the Sikh community. So I consider that this is the success.
Also, Mr. Arora, last question. Do you feel there is similitude of the way the Indian government is reacting if we compare what is happening in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and then what is happening to the Sikhs? The same kind of measures are being taken. The mobiles are being shut down. The internet services are being suspended. There is a huge attempt to capture any and every Sikh leader who is trying to raise a voice for the rights of the Sikh people. Doesn't that remind you a lot of the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and the movement that is happening there?
Look, while I'm talking to this, this is evidence, and people can witness that this is I think this is a policy how to suppress who raise the voice, how to suppress those communities who raise voice. Either it's Sikh, either it's the Indian occupied Kashmir, either it's Dalit, either it's Christian. So I think they follow the same strategy, the same policy, and you can see they are imposing so many bans, putting them behind the bars, and lots of those measures which are against the basic human rights. So the same strategy, same policy they are carrying out, either it's Punjab or either it's Indian occupied Kashmir. I think that is their policy and strategy.
All right. Mr. Ramesh Arora, thank you so very much to have joined us. That was Ramesh Arora, Ambassador at Large, Kartarpur Corridor, Government of Pakistan, talking to us about the referendum for Khalistan that is happening in different countries, the latest happening in Australia, and that has created a rift between the Indian and Australian governments. There's another part that's going to happen later this year in Sydney as well. Let's come to our last two stories one by one. The first is, of course, the PTI smear campaign against the armed forces and the Chief of the Army Staff. Nothing new there. We've seen that in the past, but then this is happening now again under a new Army Chief, and that is what has been highlighted by our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab in a tweet wherein he says that PTI's disgusting smear campaign campaign against the Chief of the Army Staff, General Asim Munir, at the behest of Imran Niazi is deserving of the strongest condemnation. He continues in another tweet that this man, Niazi, is stooping to unprecedented lows in his desperation for power and going to the extent of damaging the country and undermining our armed forces and their leadership. PTI's philosophy or functioning has this smear or such smear campaigns as part of its functioning or ideology, let's put it that way. We've seen that in the past with the previous Chief of the Army Staff as well, and we are seeing this as part of the current Chief of the Army Staff as well. Direct and indirect attempts to smear Pakistan and to smear Pakistan leadership regionally, internationally and nationally. I hope they understand before it's way too late for them to make a U-turn, quote unquote. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns World Oral Health Day. The World Oral Health Day happens on this very day, that is the 20th of March every year. Since 2021, there was a 3-year campaign theme, Be Proud of Your Mouth. It has been the same for the past 3 years as a part of a campaign that was launched by the World Dental Federation, FDI, in the year 2021. It's very important to take care of your oral hygiene. Our religion talks about that, our society talks about that. We need to brush our teeth, we need to keep our teeth clean, our mouth clean. When we do ablution, when we go for our prayers also, we also clean our mouth. It's part of our religion and the way we function in our society as well. We need to be more careful because there are so many diseases that we can have if we don't take care of our oral hygiene, and that is extremely important. Small measures that need to be taken: continue cleaning your mouth and brushing your teeth at regular intervals, and that is how you can prevent yourself from so many diseases. That is the aim of this Oral Health Day as well. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.